Hey everyone, this is GosuDad, and welcome to Game 2 in a best-of-3 show match between CuePhoenix and RaZe, Terran vs. Terran on the GSL map Bel'shir Beach Winter. Hey everyone, this is GosuDad, and welcome back to that beautiful map from the Global Star League. This is the winter tile set, the winter-themed version of Bel'shir Beach. Now up here in the upper left-hand corner, playing Terran in the orange, we have RaZe. And once again, just like last time, in the lower right-hand corner, playing Terran in the blue, we have CuePhoenix. So truth be told, you're actually watching a rematch of a match. That's right, the first game in this best-of-3 was a rematch of CuePhoenix and RaZe's initial game that they met in Season 5 of the Online Ladder. And this game is actually a rematch of that game, CuePhoenix requesting a rematch, and that turned this into a best-of-3, which we are watching today. So RaZe slightly ahead on that SCV construction, now building his first supply depot. Slight variation from last game. As you see, the position of his supply depot is flush against the edge of the map there. He's going to have a nice solid wall off there. Supply blocked, RaZe is, until he gets this done. CuePhoenix all the way up to the 19 supply cap. Finished his building a little bit sooner than RaZe and starting on his barracks sooner than RaZe. By just a little bit. Not sure that's going to make that much of a difference. One of the great things about these maps from the GSL is they have a little bit longer distances between the two bases, so minute timings like that won't matter as much as they did from back in the day, beginning of the Blizzard Online Ladder with those really short maps. RaZe doing a quick scout out to CuePhoenix's base, probably looking to see if there is an early command center coming down, as that will imply possibly a repeat from last game. And RaZe's SCV just taking CuePhoenix's SCV for a little tour of his own base. Two SCVs coming out briefly, and RaZe's SCV coming down to the natural, not seeing anything here. Playing a little bit of micro games, as we'll just go ahead and watch this for our enjoyment. In the early game, CuePhoenix putting down that second barracks, you can see on the right-hand side. Wow. A little bit of tag being played here. RaZe putting down a little bit of a bunker, and then taking off, before being destroyed. The first kill of this game is CuePhoenix with a worker kill. But this bunker will be a slight speed bump for CuePhoenix if he intends to do an early expand. And this Marine coming down there to clean that up. So a little bit of early game excitement here. CuePhoenix going down with a refinery much earlier than last time. And these two barracks, he should be able to produce some fighting units. Switching over to RaZe's front door, let's take a look at that wall off. Looks like he's got a complete wall off here. Two supply depots and that barracks, working on his first Marine. Okay, I shouldn't say that, maybe not be his first Marine. Already got his refinery down with 3 on gas. Should be expecting some tech out of him, and of course already upgraded 2 in orbital command. CuePhoenix orbital command is on its way. RaZe now going for, triple barracks. This looks a lot like what he did last time. Tech lab going down. Maybe see some combat shield coming out for RaZe. Once he has that 100 gas, and is it coming? It is not. Looks like a supply depot instead. Alright, back in CuePhoenix's base, he is starting to research STEM. And there we see that combat shield going down for RaZe. CuePhoenix starting to pump out Marines 2 at a time. No expansion down in his natural. Looks like he's just hanging out building SCVs. Now, CuePhoenix quite ahead in the supply count. 3 workers ahead of RaZe and a bunch of Marines ahead of RaZe as well. So CuePhoenix sending out a couple Marines to the 2 different Zelnaga towers, giving CuePhoenix map control with just 2 Marines. RaZe going down with the double reactor, so Tech Lab, double reactor. Now continue to research that combat shield. That will take some time, but of course that will give him an edge in combat when that time comes. Now CuePhoenix will have his stim will be longer time in coming, and now just building a reactor for that single barracks and building a defensive bunker up at his natural, expecting some kind of pressure from RaZe, which is what we saw in the last 2 games. Well, in the first game, RaZe sent a drop, so not sure that CuePhoenix is remotely prepared for that. No defenses up here along this upper ridge where drops are this nice big open ridge is just perfect for drops. So CuePhoenix looks like he's building a factory, going straight into factory. No factory from RaZe yet. That's not a big deal, but double gas, so could be getting a lot of gas. If you look over in the resource counting station, you can see these two players starting to bank a lot of gas. Typical play from your Bronze and Silver League players, over mining the gas when it is not necessary. Bunker 3 force filled with Marines. Looks like this tech lab is going to be switched out, so this factory can come in, and bingo, there goes the factory. And an SCV coming up on the right-hand side. RaZe already sending down an initial attack group, actually a pretty big attack group. That's a bunch of Marines, maybe about 8 Marines or so, plus a handful of Marauders. And CuePhoenix with a small hit squad here, going to try to put some pressure on RaZe's front door. These guys, I think, probably cleared out that Marine pretty quickly. Didn't get to see that action, but we'll be seeing some action coming up shortly. As CuePhoenix killing a couple of Marines, now killing off this Marauder. That Marauder will be able to tank a lot of damage from those Marines, so only 5 Marines left for CuePhoenix. There, that wall goes up, and RaZe poised at the front of CuePhoenix's base, ready to push in. CuePhoenix with a pretty healthy set of Marines here, 9 Marines and 4 in the bunker. That bunker is taking the brunt of the initial attack from these units and popping up the hit points. We can see that CuePhoenix has a fairly nice concave here, and surprisingly able to push back these few units from RaZe. Now these 5 Marines are going to chase these guys, it looks like, back over to the Xel'Naga Tower, back to the possible third from CuePhoenix. I'm trying to keep up with the panning here. I have a massive mouse pad, a StarCraft 2 mouse pad, but you know, this map is pretty big. Those units just running right by CuePhoenix's Marine and losing that last one as they come up to RaZe's base, which we see is still under attack by these Marines. Now they were able to kill that tech lab and a supply depot. That's pretty good. Those Marines retreating inside the bunker, backed up by another 5 Marines. So it'll be interesting to see how much damage CuePhoenix was able to kill that Marauder as it was trying to run away. Not sure if they're going to be able to kill this barracks. Looks like they're focusing on it, and RaZe coming out with a pretty large force, including a couple of SCVs. They're able to destroy it. Are they going to retreat inside the bunker? And, you know, they didn't even bother trying. I don't think CuePhoenix was paying attention there. This SCV going to die, and these bunkers should be salvaged. If CuePhoenix does not salvage them, that is just a waste of money. And, yep, thank you. Welcome to Bronze League. CuePhoenix with that Marine still maintaining map control over this Xel'Naga Tower, and RaZe cleared this one out when he sent that initial group down, and looks like the players will be settling into the mid-game here as we see another barracks being built for CuePhoenix. No tech lab on any of these barracks, so no more tech coming out for CuePhoenix. He's still stuck with these Marines do have stim, but nothing else. Tanks being built out of that factory. CuePhoenix starting to make use of that gas. Lots of minerals, a ton of gas banked up. Be interesting to see if he makes any use of that. A lot of Terran players tend to focus on the Marines, and the Marines and Marauders and tanks, all very mineral heavy units. A pretty good set of Marines coming out from RaZe, going to be clearing out this Xel'Naga Tower, unless they just decide to ignore this guy. Wow, he just got squashed immediately. A bunch of SCVs coming down here too, so this is an extremely mineral heavy force here. RaZe trying to keep up with the pressure, which is good. Pressure on these newbie guys such as CuePhoenix does wonders for keeping them on their toes. A bunch of Marines, though, hanging out here with one tank in the back. SCV pulling back, and ow, wow, tank started that siege mode really coming to effect there. RaZe trying to stay outside the range of that tank. Now 2 tanks. Will he be able to keep up this pressure? Supply count is in CuePhoenix's favor. More army and quite a bit more workers. And wow, that... Whoa! Bunkers just exploding as soon as they're starting. And RaZe looks like he's pulling back. CuePhoenix able to hold off that aggression from RaZe now a second time. And be going back into RaZe's base and see what's going on. RaZe has expanded. He's on his way with his second command center. Should be seeing that turned into an orbital command. Taking a look at RaZe's base, see a lot of supply depots and not much else. RaZe looking at the resource counting station in the upper right hand side, up to 1,000 banked gas. So needs to start burning up that gas. Got a factory down. Should be trying to catch up in that technology game. Looking at the unit counting station, we see that CuePhoenix already has 3 tanks, 30 Marines, 1 Marauder. So keeping up with RaZe is a little bit higher with the SCV count, but of course he's only on 1 base, whereas RaZe is now on 2. So RaZe should be able to gain a lot of resources, upgrading the second command center to an orbital command. And we're starting to see some divergence in the play of these two players. Looking down here, CuePhoenix does have a second command center that none of us saw and already upgraded to an orbital command, but he's not doing anything with that. Once again, typical of these lower league players. 2 engineering bays researching upgrades, so kudos to CuePhoenix for remembering that. Engineering bay from RaZe is nowhere to be seen, so RaZe is going to be behind in the upgrade battle. Starport coming down for RaZe. CuePhoenix starting on his second starport, almost, okay, not almost done. Looks like he's just started that, but his first starport with the reactor now. This is a lot of production structures on CuePhoenix's side, very heavy on the mineral side, and you can see his minerals being used very efficiently, but his gas is not. So it'll be interesting to see between these two players how well they're able to manage that gas and mineral balance. RaZe starting to send down those mules from his dual orbital commands, not taking advantage of these gas geysers quite yet. Neither is CuePhoenix, so both of these players should be gas starved pretty quickly. Now CuePhoenix not really adding very much more production, but these 2 starports are going to use a lot of minerals, a lot of gas, so that should be fine for him. He has placed a tech lab down, and let me select on a marine and see what they've got. Looks like just actually STEM has not been researched, so CuePhoenix having fairly unfancy marines except for those 2 upgrades. Weapons upgrade and armor, those being researched again from these double engineering bays. Haven't seen an engineering bay from RaZe. Is going to take a quick glance at his base, building another barracks. So again, these, hey, there's an engineering bay there. So taking a look at these marines, they are not upgraded yet. So RaZe, plenty of money, plenty of minerals, plenty of gas. Now building. Taking that medevac, I believe he had a tank that was trapped behind this wall. Taking a look at this wall again, you can see it's super tight here. Lots of units, double, triple layer wall here between the natural and the main. So CuePhoenix gonna have a hard time getting through that. But CuePhoenix up on the army count by about 20 supply. But these tanks take up a lot of supply. There's 3 supply in each of these tanks, and there are 5 of them. So that's 15 supply right there. So the difference here could be described as a tank difference between these 2 forces. Pretty even on the marine count. CuePhoenix with a bunch of medevacs. I think the medevacs do count towards that army supply as well. So CuePhoenix with medevacs and a tank advantage. Both players sitting on 2 bases, but we check out the income tab, and RaZe is much higher on the income than CuePhoenix is, which is pretty interesting because their harvesters are the same. Now what that says to me is that RaZe has a better spread of his units between his 2 mineral lines. We check out CuePhoenix's second mineral line. It seems to be pretty healthy over here. And oh, back at his main, he's already mined it out. Let's take a quick look at RaZe's. He's got quite a few minerals left. So CuePhoenix, perhaps a little bit too efficient on his main mineral line, or perhaps more specifically not spreading out those workers like he should, like as well as RaZe has. And we're starting to see some imbalances between these 2 players. Now RaZe building a 3rd command center and starting again to see some differences in the 2 plays. No gas being taken at that expansion for RaZe, gas being taken by CuePhoenix, so using that gas efficiently on his side. That may explain his larger, only slightly larger armor supply and now inferior worker supply. So RaZe continuing to build workers much longer than CuePhoenix, building up a massive drop. Just select everything and start right-clicking on medevacs, and they are all loaded up. We'll go ahead and follow these guys. Looks like they're going to come in for some massive doom drop. A bunch of extra units not in the medevacs, just kind of hanging outside, and here they go. Maybe some being held back. Now some of them going out to kill. Now let's take a look at the army supply tab. CuePhoenix ahead quite a bit in army supply, though a lot of that is tied up in tanks, and those tanks are at the front of the base. RaZe going for that nice little landing spot in the back door, as we've mentioned several times before, and ahead in worker supply. You can see RaZe continuing to build workers, which is very good practice for him. And these units are starting to come down. I'm going to try to take control back of this cursor. 2 Banshees waiting for them won't do any good against those medevacs. Those Marines are going to take those Banshees out lickety-split. This tank in siege mode here, able to take out one of the tanks that came down, and now going into the mineral line. Everybody's stimming. Goodbye, refinery. And the tank's trying to set up shop. The orbital command being lifted off so it doesn't get attacked by the tanks. But the Marine's going to just destroy these medevacs that really should be not here. And CuePhoenix's base, his maze of a base preventing his units from coming in here. Now those handful of Vikings have no counter except for these Marines. The Marines are going to go down, and these Vikings could be able to take out these medevacs on the way home. Medevacs being damaged. That one dropping off a few guys. That's good. And oh, look at that, CuePhoenix landing the Vikings just to kill a bunch of Marines. Killing the loaded medevacs would have been a much more valuable, worthwhile thing to do. So that was a pretty good engagement. These games, you know, down in the Bronze Silver League, you know, when they're close, they end up being long games. This one's starting to turn out into a doozy. We're into the 20-minute mark. Of course, a lot of the pro players, this would be a very long game at 20 minutes, but you know, down in Silver Bronze League, this is a close game. All right, units from CuePhoenix doing strange things. Looks like we're still building Banshees, despite those being seen, and going double Viking, which is kind of an interesting choice. I think he's shooting for tank Viking here, and tanks in production. Oh, 2 Vikings and a Banshee. That's kind of an interesting choice by CuePhoenix. Now, RaZe showing off his barracks supply ability, kicking in quite a few barracks there. 4, I think that is more than CuePhoenix. Pretty large force here coming down for RaZe. Not sure where they're going to set up shop, but they're going to run. Oh, they're pushing CuePhoenix's group away. So CuePhoenix had a nice little army here, pushing them away from the Xel'Naga Tower, creating some map control for RaZe. Now, the positioning of these towers is quite interesting, so we'll just pan around here. So this tower right here blocks this entry and gives a little bit of vision to this pathway here. So by setting an army around this general area, you can protect several different bases. You can protect this third right here, your natural, and of course the natural via an entrance to your original main base. His army now moving down and kind of going near the Xel'Naga Tower but not taking it. I would say that's a bad move. He just should go over here and take it. CuePhoenix could have a unit here and just see that army sitting there, which reveals the position. And in Terran versus Terran, it's all about position. So CuePhoenix setting up his defensive force here, trying to protect the natural, but leaving wide open this pathway from this other Xel'Naga Tower, and RaZe pushing ahead a little bit to check that out. Now RaZe behind in the army supply, but again, a lot of that army for CuePhoenix is tied up in these tanks, which are stationary, or at least CuePhoenix is using these as stationary. See how far back these tanks are? They provide no defense for this kind of common defensive area up here. So even though CuePhoenix is higher in that army count, it doesn't really matter, because RaZe is never going to fight that army altogether at once. Wow, super risky move here. 2 tanks in a medevac, no support, just the medevac by itself, trying to sneak in here. RaZe can see a bunch of overlapping sensor tower coverage going down into this the third, which really isn't a third because CuePhoenix just moved his main command center over there. So CuePhoenix still on 2 base. These tanks should be taken out pretty quickly. Oh, able to take out 1. That's pretty good. Surprising. This medevac should be taken out. So that's a loss for RaZe. But no big deal as we take a look at the resource counting station. You can see these players at this point, their macro skills are not keeping up with their ability to mine resources. RaZe at the 3k mineral mark and CuePhoenix at the 1k mineral mark. These Banshees up here at what would be RaZe's 4th if he decides to take the far expansion. Good to see if they decide to move in a bunch of Marines kind of preemptively hanging out near this mineral line. Not sure if RaZe has a second sense about that. He did see those Banshees from earlier in the game, and now RaZe going to, whoa, that is 5 command centers. These extra command centers being upgraded to orbital command, so RaZe will just be able to plop down mules wherever he needs an unlimited number of scans. So these Banshees, although they're able to do some damage here, 2 kills, 4 kills, 5 kills, their cloaking ability will, be useless. And actually, if you look here, they don't have cloak researched even. I think CuePhoenix just realized that was a waste of money. These Marines just kind of wandering around, taking damage from some stims, which are unnecessary. Might be able to take out these Banshees, looking for the Banshees, not finding them. And CuePhoenix setting shop at the southern Xel'Naga towers. So RaZe up here at the northern side with just a single tank. But he'll be able to see that army movement, and RaZe just increasing his bank of minerals that he can then use to power his many barracks. He's got 3 barracks over here at the natural and 4 barracks here with a couple of reactors. So RaZe, you know, at this point, as we move towards the max army situation, 200 armies approaching, RaZe has a greater ability to resupply. CuePhoenix's production structures have basically remained the same since we entered that 2-base phase of the game. So we're just kind of waiting for some big... and Banshee's trying to hit the mineral line again, taking players' attention away from the positioning of their armies. You can see RaZe selecting his units there. This one, Banshee, able to get 9 kills, 10 kills before he dies. Now CuePhoenix almost to that 200 mark, so should be seeing some move out from them. Still has not built a replacement command center here. We got 1 SCV making the long trek back to that refinery. CuePhoenix and RaZe banking up a lot of money. Of course, CuePhoenix has no idea how much money RaZe has. And RaZe has no idea how much money CuePhoenix has. It almost looks like, from the minimap, that CuePhoenix has 3 running bases, but he really only has 2. So at this point, it's kind of deceiving. It looks like CuePhoenix is ahead in the supply count, but once you get up to 200, it's all about recharging your army. CuePhoenix with upgrades at 2-2, and RaZe's Marines, now doing some maneuvering here, are upgraded 0-2. So CuePhoenix's Marines are slightly more upgraded, but again, his supply count is taken up by a bunch of these medevacs and these Marines and these Marauders. So, you know, when it comes to the unit difference, I think these armies are pretty close. CuePhoenix has a lot of supply held up in these tanks, which are not going to be in this engagement. RaZe just has a massive ball of Marines. Now, if those tanks were up here with CuePhoenix's army, it would be pretty devastating. Almost looks like CuePhoenix is getting ready to drop into the main. That would be interesting. Banshee up here just doing some harassment, and a couple of Marines coming in here to try to stim and take that Banshee out. And here goes CuePhoenix bringing in his army up into this choke area. RaZe's army just waiting around the corner, moving back to this tank. Gonna see an engagement here, and the medevacs are leading the way. That's a huge mistake by CuePhoenix. Had a medevac advantage. These Marines also giving a medevac advantage, but RaZe coming around, making a much better concave, stimming his units. I'm not even sure. CuePhoenix never had stim. Oh, that's just a massive mistake. And RaZe's stimmed Marines able to just sweep in and do a terrible amount of damage. Look at CuePhoenix's supply. Down to 95, losing over 100 supply in that engagement. RaZe only losing, well, I don't know what, maybe 30 or 40, but of course able to regenerate that so quickly. Taking a look at the production tab, you can see he's producing 9 Marines at a time compared to CuePhoenix's 4. These Marines still able to do quite a bit of damage. Checking out their hit points, so they're extremely weak from the multiple engagement and multiple stims. So I don't think they're going to be able to make it through this defensive force by CuePhoenix. And wow, these two players showcasing their Gosu Silver League skills. I think RaZe, if he would have held back with those Marines, he could have used medevacs to heal them, do a terrible amount of damage, or just jumping back into the main, could have taken out the production structures, but instead just went for a straight counter push, which at first you're like, oh, that's kind of a big mistake or a big blunder, but at this point, RaZe is ahead in the game. You know, his income is just huge. Now moving a command center to a new location. My only guess would have to be the 4th, and it looks like it is. And just continuing to ramp up on that production. CuePhoenix going to be behind in the production race. Doesn't have as many unit producing structures. RaZe making 9 Marines at a time, 2 medevacs at a time. So CuePhoenix, although he's able to make a lot, he's doing a lot of investment for the future with these upgrades. RaZe just has more stuff. Another base coming down here. That makes... because he's still mining from this natural, so RaZe is still at 4 mining bases. Hasn't sent the SCVs down here, but at any moment he can send down just a bunch of mules. So at this point, RaZe, even though he lost all those Marines, that was really unfortunate, he's still able to stay in this game and ahead. CuePhoenix really struggling to set up base at this third base. Now don't forget, this is his main command center. That damage there is from that very first initial drop by RaZe. CC scans with so many CCs, orbital commands. RaZe is just able to scan everywhere and see what's going on. And again, CuePhoenix with a lot of these tanks are awesome, but they are stationary if you, well, they're stationary if you leave them stationary. So, you know, CuePhoenix, a couple of those engagements, if he would have had those tanks closer to his main engagement force, he would have had a huge advantage. Would have been able to clean up RaZe's forces very quickly, especially since his forces had no armor upgrades, just attack upgrades. Of course, RaZe's units have been upgraded with the combat shield. As you can see, these units all have those nice, cute little combat shields, look like little Roman legionnaire phalanx guys. And CuePhoenix's Marines, look at that, no combat shield, so they're 10 hit points less, not even no stim researched whatsoever. So RaZe is basically walking in with a bunch of very upgraded Marines. Now their attack upgrades are up to 3. So checking out CuePhoenix, I mean, it's close. They're just down 1 armor upgrade, but you know, with combat shield and stim, they're just so much stronger. And with these medevacs, they'll be able to heal. The medevacs have quite a bit of energy. CuePhoenix going wow before they even come into attack, starting to stim. And these the missile turret might be able to take down a medevac. Looks like it went down, but these Marines, just look how fast they move when stimmed. That is just crazy. CC being evaporated, but wow, CuePhoenix did have a defensive force. It took them a long time to come into play. Not sure they're going to be able to hold out. A lot of these Marines are not even firing because they're too far back. Terrible control by these players, by CuePhoenix in particular. RaZe with a small force here that's going to be taken out, but the damage has been done. CuePhoenix's base here was destroyed, and this was one of his main mining bases. As you see, CuePhoenix moving over to the 4th base location, but this, again, this is the CC from his natural. Because that natural got mined out, he moved it, so CuePhoenix on 1 base now. RaZe just now starting to hit production structures with random Marines. So with RaZe now up to, you know, still with the multiple CCs going on, his 3rd now mined out, just mining like crazy over here at this 4th. RaZe with just a crazy income. CuePhoenix not even spending the 1,400 minerals that he had there. I mean, it's really coming down. I mean, CuePhoenix really needs to make a move here. If we look at the army supply count, his army is almost double of what RaZe's is, but it's spread out. He really needs to move these tanks together. I think he even still has tanks back in his main, and a couple of SCVs just hanging out there. They could be mining instead. So, you know, CuePhoenix's forces, there have been moments where his forces have been stronger than RaZe's, but they've just been spread out across the map, trying to guard too much. RaZe, with these big Marine pushes, able to just gather up the Marines all into one spot. 4 medevacs. Here we go. A drop of some sort coming into play. More medevacs being built. Maybe they'll be added to this crew. Nope, just being staged for later. Moving down the map. Nice silent. We can listen to this fun Terran music. Very foreboding as they pass by RaZe's 5th mineral line, now entering into that sensor range, right into CuePhoenix's units. Vikings taking out 1 medevac, almost taking out a 3rd, but they turn around straight into another group. Gonna be sandwiched. Kaboom! Look at that! Wow! Oh, what a destruction! Ouch by RaZe. Ouch indeed. But I don't know. I don't think that ouch was nearly as bad as CuePhoenix's wow moment. Lots of Marines being pulled in from all sides, being gathered into another Marine force. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I mean, I guess you could probably tell earlier, much earlier than this, CuePhoenix is just behind. And when you're behind, you've got to make a move. You've got to make something happen. CuePhoenix now scanning this 5th base location, going to try to make a move on that. I think he's going to be able to take it out, but again, leading with the Vikings and the medevacs. All that do is just reveal what you're going to do, and those heavy gas units are just so vulnerable there at the front. RaZe's units stimming in. Don't forget, I think CuePhoenix still does not have stim, no combat shield. RaZe's units on par in the upgrades. They're just going to be able to clean up the ground forces, and then these Vikings can only take down medevacs, which they are doing very well, but now they just need to get out of here. Vikings medevacs need to leave. Vikings landing. I think they're just trying so desperately to take out this base, but I don't think CuePhoenix realizes this is one of, what, 4 CCs? I guess 1 of 5. So, again, CuePhoenix trying to pull back. Now on 2 bases for income. This second one just being built, so, you know, really it's just 1.5. Checking out the Army Supply tab, though, these players are surprisingly close in Army Supply. I think a lot of that is CuePhoenix still has tanks back here, using up that Army Supply, which, I mean, if he'd have those tanks in those engagements, I think he would be ahead. But again, how many times are we going to say this in this game? Tanks are great as offensive units as well as defensive units. And you can see here all the tanks have done have just prevented RaZe from entering the natural and the main. And RaZe has never bothered hitting that, because as these games go longer and longer, it's not about guarding your main and your natural anymore. It's about that army placement. And with sensor towers all over the map, you can see where the armies are being placed, where they're moving. It's all about that army control in the late game and your ability to reproduce those units, which RaZe has been doing even better. Now building 3 more barracks. He's like, oh, this game has lasted long enough. We need to just finish this with a huge mass of Marines. Bunch of medevacs coming in. Could be looking at a drop. Check them out. They are empty. Just going to hang out with these Marines, and CuePhoenix given another breather to try to make some sort of comeback or take advantage of some poor decision making on RaZe's part. But you look at that supply. RaZe just now finally up ahead in the Army Supply. I think he's long been ahead on that worker supply. CuePhoenix with only 12 workers. RaZe now sending this mass of workers over here, and with all those orbital commands, he can just send down a ton of mules. Doesn't matter. Has a bank of 1,400 minerals, plenty of production structures. CuePhoenix just down to building 1 or 2 Marines at a time. This is just the end. CuePhoenix, GG. Give up, buddy. It's been a nice battle, but after several rematches, you still have not been able to recapture the glory of that initial game. But here goes RaZe. I think this is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. The final push of this very long TvT. Very close. Surprisingly close at times. But CuePhoenix just not taking advantage of those tanks, and those tanks being more of a supply liability than anything else. I mean, if you're not going to use them in engagements, might as well be building something else that's going to be useful in an engagement. CuePhoenix also going for those Vikings, which, although those were great for taking out medevacs, you know, RaZe just having lots of Marines, and of course RaZe researching those 2 different upgrades, the combat shields, which we can see on these Marines right here, and that stim, which has been invaluable for him. Combat shield giving Marines more health, allowing them to stim with basically no health disadvantage there. And you know, RaZe, how long has he had this tank here? Just watching this Selnaga tower the whole time, you know, CuePhoenix, you know, kind of iffy on controlling this Selnaga tower. So RaZe having a lot of map control for this later part of the game. And of course, by later, I mean everything since the first part. Ever since the first couple of engagements. RaZe up to max, 196, 186, not quite 200, 200. But this should be the end here. Going to take out these brave missile turrets that have been placed here way back in the early game. And these tanks now finally getting to do their work. But looking at the hit tab, these, I mean, fully upgraded Marines and in such large numbers and stimming, able to just completely clean up this army from CuePhoenix, and he GG's. With a little bit of haha. You know, these players are actually in pretty good friendly spirits here. Tank kaboom! And GG from CuePhoenix. Alright, let's take a look at the post-game. Well, that was a crazy marathon of a game. Watching the RaZe kill cam here as he goes in for the final kill. So, you know, again, I'm just gonna put it out there that CuePhoenix a couple times, you know, did have that army advantage with those tanks, but you know, when those tanks are held back at the base, I mean, they're only finding their full use here in this final engagement. And so because of that, RaZe always had an army advantage coming into it. He was very diligent about doing his initial researches, with the combat shield and the stim, using those throughout the game. So even though he was slightly behind in the armor and the weapons upgrades, those researches that he did at the very beginning of the game were just crucial for the entire thing, and CuePhoenix never researching those. And some of that was at his initial choice to move the tech lab from that barracks over to the factory. And then, even though you can see a tech lab here on the screen, as I move my mouse over here, he never made use of it to get those very crucial research upgrades for those Marines. So great, GG everyone around. Great show match. Thank you, RaZe, and of course, as you all know, CuePhoenix is me. So I'm not gonna say thank you me, but yeah, great show match, and look forward to be doing some more in the future. And as I said on my welcome back video, we'll be doing some post-game analysis of that show match I played against Quail Gang. So look forward to that. Don't know how to talk. That's right. GosuDad signing off, and we'll see you guys next time. Good luck. Have fun.